Good evening, I'm Jake Tapper in for Aaron Burnett. Out front tonight, the assault on America's law enforcement officers. The execution-style killing of a West Virginia sheriff on Wednesday is just the latest in a series of violent attacks on law officers across the country. In the past 2 months alone, we've seen 2 prosecutors gunned down in Texas and a prison chief murdered in Colorado. What's driving this unusual spike in murder? Deb Fayrick is out front tonight with the story.
The murders are disturbing. 5 victims, 4 of them law enforcement, all shot execution style in a little over a 2-month period. Now hundreds of state and federal investigators are trying to figure out whether the shootings in Colorado, Texas, and West Virginia are somehow connected.
We're not going to allow the lawlessness of a few to cause us a moment's hesitation in our efforts to make a safer and a more secure Texas.
Security is tight as those who usually fight crime take measures to avoid becoming victims of it. Terror expert Maki Haberfeld tracks these types of killings.
We just do not fear, especially in democratic countries. We don't fear law enforcement personnel as we used to, as let's say the previous generation.
The boldness of the killings is disconcerting. The most recent in West Virginia, Mingo Sheriff Eugene Crum was killed in his squad car while eating lunch. Assistant DA Mark Hassey was killed while walking from his car to a Dallas area courthouse. Colorado Prison Chief Tom Clements was killed at home, as was Kaufman County District Attorney Mike McClelland and his wife Cynthia.
You know that there's always the potential for these bad people to do something bad to you because they've already done something bad to somebody else.
McClelland's warning that he would fight, particularly chilling.
But we'll still make the walk, and we'll still show up, and we'll still send bad guys out of Kaufman County every chance we get. We're not stopping, we're not slowing down, we're still doing our job.
You don't challenge individuals who are out there motivated by some sort of deranged ideology that law enforcement officers are, the enemy, to be killed.
The reason or reasons for each of the killings remains unclear. In Texas, members of a white supremacist prison gang are being questioned for a possible link. In the Colorado case, a former convict who may have belonged to that gang was fatally wounded by police in Texas. While in West Virginia, a deranged man is currently hospitalized, also following a police shootout. And Jake, just to put this in context, every year dozens of law enforcement officers are killed. According to FBI statistics, back in 2011, about 72 officers were killed. Almost 1 in 5 were victims of an ambush. But if this, what is going on right now, is any indication, then those numbers could go significantly higher, Jake.
Thanks, Deb. But what about copycats? How big a concern is that?
That is a really big issue. And one of the things that they're all looking at, all the investigators are looking at, is could this be copycat? Could this be a revenge killing? Could Christopher Dorner, the former L.A. police officer who went crazy and started killing members of the LAPD who he thought had wronged them, is this a trigger? Was that a motivator in all of this? Some say yes, in fact it was. They saw the phenomenal way he went out in kind of a blaze of or flame of glory. Others say, well, no, because the first killing was done in January. Dorner didn't come along until just a little bit later. So but that's one of the things they're looking at, and that's why it's so scary. If they can lead this or trace this to a gang nexus, they'll be in a much better position to go after members who may have belonged to this Aryan gang who have been paroled. At least that gives them something to wrap their arms around.
All right, thank you. I want to bring in now former FBI agent Jeff Lanza. He spent 20 years in the Bureau, and he's out front tonight. Jeff, what do you make of these violent murders that we've seen? Are criminals getting bolder, or is there something else going on here?
Well, it sure seems that way, and this is really unprecedented. As was mentioned in the report, about 1 a week is the occurrence of police officers getting killed as a direct result of adversarial action. A smaller percentage of that involves ambush killings. That's what these were. And now we've seen attacks not only against law enforcement, but in all 3 components of the criminal justice system. We have the courts, we have corrections, and we have law enforcement. Unprecedented. And what's so ironic about this, if the theory behind these attacks is that they're trying to intimidate law enforcement, the courts, corrections, into subjugating themselves to not going after these drug cartels or these drug groups, it's going to have just the opposite effect.
Well, we all know law enforcement's a dangerous job, but since January, according to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, 28 officers have been killed in the United States, 13 of them by the guns. That's up 17% from 2012. So I guess the big question is, if these criminals are this bold to go after law enforcement, is there anything really that would deter them from any sort of crime?
Yeah, well, what those numbers indicate is a rise, absolutely. But again, most of those attacks on law enforcement officers have been the result of a fugitive chase, a pullover of a car, an arrest situation. They're not ambush attacks. If these situations are connected, and some of them may be, it is an indication that the criminals in these cases have been more brazen. Now, are they targeting? Would that mean they're going to target members of the population? It doesn't sound that way. It looks like they're going after prosecutors in order to intimidate them into not going after their cases. And as I said earlier, it's going to have just the opposite effect, so it really doesn't make any sense in the long run.
And lastly, Jeff, in Texas, the two prosecutors shot there were known to carry guns. Still, they did not survive with their lives. How do law enforcement officers, whether they are corrections officers or prosecutors or sheriffs, how do they guard against this kind of thing happening? These gentlemen had guns.
You can't. It's not like in the movies where someone attacks you and you respond and you shoot the attacker. You know, the sad part of this whole situation is that the reaction is always behind action. So if someone has a drop on you, if they're targeting you, I don't care how many guns you have. If they come up behind you, it's not like the Old West where you challenge somebody to a gunfight. You come up and you shoot somebody, and that's what happened in these cases. And there's very little you can do to stay 100% safe against something like that.
All right, former FBI agent Jeff Lanza, thank you so much.